All good? Yeah.
Go for it. Adrian, ideally, would you not like to have this many players trying to leave the club, even if it's just for really lucrative offers?
It's a hard one, Dave, because I feel like the club has always been built this way. That the way we were set up from the start was we're going to have high talent, and then it's going to be hard for us to retain that talent. So there'd be a spill to other clubs, and with these guys that have left, obviously we tried our hardest to keep them, and we put what we thought were fair offers to them. But it seems as though we've just been blown out of the water by some other clubs, and that's just the system.
Was there one in particular that surprised you? Did you think you would at least keep one of those guys at their club?
No, I felt like during the year we were pretty confident, I suppose same level of confidence on all of them. They were all different situations. I mean, obviously Isaac and Harry were free agents, and we knew that was always going to make it more challenging given that clubs don't have to give up a draft pick to bring those guys in. And there were periods in the year where we thought that, we might have been, on the favourable end of those ones, but it didn't work out our way. James was much different because, halfway through the year when we first spoke to him and his manager about extending, he was still on the fringes of our team, and, no one could have foreseen what he was about to do in the back half of the year. So that was one, again, though, as a local product and as someone that we developed, we were confident that, we were in the race and we put a good offer forward. But at the end of the day, that's all we could do is provide them with the best information they could on what their futures would look like with us. And if they get offered, what they get offered, and they feel like their opportunities are best served elsewhere, then it is what it is.
When you say blown out of the water by some of those deals, are you staying at some of those offers, some of the money being thrown around?
It's hard to say what money it was. Because they're unrestricted free agents, we don't find out how much money they're getting paid. But given once the compensation came through on Friday, I would say we were surprised that we got band 1 for Perryman and band 2 for Cumming. I mean, if you had have said that during the year, we weren't expecting that. So we think they're great players, and we think there's great reason for those clubs to go after them. I mean, Harry's been a fantastic servant of the footy club for a long time, and a really good player for us through the academy. And Isaac has had some injury interruptions, but we know what he's capable of. So I think that's just the market as it is at the minute, that, especially in free agency, players are going to get paid well because there's not many guys who take free agency all the way through to the end.
Given Peatling was on the fringes and then came late into the side, where does his value sit in terms of trying to come to a deal now?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We obviously, we haven't had any chats with Adelaide at all, so I have no idea where that one's going to head. That's something we'll have to work through with Justin and the Crows. Other than to say, this year is interesting because we've already got a pretty strong draft hand, clearly, so they don't really have much this year other than their first selection, so it may end up being in the futures, but as I said, we haven't even had an internal discussion around it.
Adrian, what's the latest on Conor Stone? Obviously, you've lost a few. You're really keen not to lose him as well.
We definitely are really keen to keep Conor. We see him as a valuable part of our future, and especially given that Harry and Isaac have departed, there's an opening there for Conor to take one of those spots. And based on how close he was in the back half of the year, we're confident he will take one of those spots. We've had an offer on the table with him for a while. He's obviously wanted to wait until the end of the season, see how his year finished, see what opportunities he was given. He was in our side late in the year, but unfortunately got sick and then was on the cusp at finals. And then he's probably wanted to wait and see what interest levels he got from other clubs, and then what happened with Isaac and Harry, which Isaac only told us on Tuesday last week. Oh, sorry, Harry did. So we're still working through it with him and his manager. We're confident, but there's been no decision made yet.
Do you increase the offer to make sure you don't lose it?
Well, I don't think it's a money thing. I think for Conor, there's obviously other factors at play. I don't think that, us increasing our offer is going to be the reason that he stays with us. Obviously in whatever contract we would come to with him, it's going to be built in that if he plays, he's going to get paid pretty well. So from his conversations with us, it's purely about opportunity, and we understand that.
What's your level of interest in Jake Springer?
I think now that trade period starts now, we've got a list of guys that we're doing a little bit of preliminary work on, Jake being one of those, and some of those will be players that we might have to look to do a bit sooner during trade period, and some might be delisted free agents, and there's a few on our list that would be delisted free agents. So at the moment, everything we're doing with all those guys is very preliminary. It wasn't until late last week that we found out what picks we have. We found out who was, that obviously James was leaving as well. So we're just really starting to get the ball rolling with all that stuff now in a very preliminary sense.
Still a shoe on those ones?
He will be one. Again, there's a heap of guys, and it's a range of positions and age, and there's a whole. It's about seeing what's available, seeing who might be attainable. One thing we're conscious of doing is it's got to make sense financially for us and in a pick sense. And also from a list spots point of view, we don't want to go on and then bring in 2 or 3 guys. And the reason that we haven't done a lot of this work sooner was because we were hopeful that some of these guys who have left us would have stayed. So now that we know they're gone, now that trade period's starting, we can start having those discussions, bearing in mind that Jake and Dylan are both contracted.
Are you expecting Wade Dirksen and Xavier Allardyce to be at the club next year?
Yeah, we are. We see them as required players. They're contracted, and we see a bright future for them at our footy club. Xavier's been with us for 6 years. He played 19 games this year, and now with James and Isaac going out of the team, Xavier's shown he can play midfield, he can play wing, he can play forward. So we see him as a valuable member that we want to hang on to. And Wade the same. While he hasn't played AFL footy, he's had 2 really good years in the VFL. One as a forward, one as a back, and we see him as someone who could force his way into our team next year.